Okay, so in July of this year, a new Angry Birds game was quietly revealed, originally known as Angry Birds Families. Ads for it were discovered on Angry Birds Journey's ad library on Facebook. In some regions, Journey's Google Play page was also changed to be themed around families, including the name, app icon, and screenshots. However, nothing was changed in the game itself, so if the user installed it, they would just get the normal unchanged version of Angry Birds Journey. From there, no more was revealed about the game. That is until September 1st, when the Twitter account AngryBirdsFlaw0 tweeted that they needed help and would like people to playtest their upcoming game, known as Angry Birds Rush. I initially thought it was a fan game and nothing more, as this account isn't official nor affiliated with Rovio. However, I noted that it said the playtest was on iOS, which is an unconventional platform to launch a fan game on, as it's usually only on Android or PC if someone were to make a fan game. And as I did more research, it turned out that it was an official game all along, and Rovio had some fans help out with them during development, as said by Creamer Draws Here. I have no idea how involved the fans were, nor do I know which fans outside of Creamer were even involved, so I can't really have much more input on talking about that. Anyway, upon installing the game, I realised it was the same one from the Facebook ads back in July. And now, before I give my thoughts on the game, I would like to make one thing clear. I know the game is in very, very early development and is marketed as a playtest, so anything I either praise or criticise is likely to change if development on the game does progress, and it's a pretty big if knowing Rovio. I just want to say that now so I don't have to keep saying the fact that it's in beta and that it could change whenever I say something about the game, as it will get annoying having to keep repeating all that stuff. And if I don't say it, then people in the comments will say it anyway, so I'm just saying it here now. The game is in beta and I know that anything wrong with it will probably change and get fixed. Also, please press the subscribe button if you want to see more videos from me, as it helps the channel grow. So, with that said, what are my thoughts on the game? Well, the gameplay's okay. I've seen people describe it as an endless runner, but to be honest, I don't really think it can be classed as one. A typical endless runner has the player, run endlessly until they themselves mess up. However, this game doesn't really follow that. You launch your bird and you have to keep the launch going by bouncing on pigs or crates, but sometimes pigs and crates and all that stuff that you can bounce on just don't spawn anymore, so there's nothing you really can do, so it's not really endless to me. I don't really know what the gameplay genre of this game would be. The main gameplay of actually slinging the birds is actually quite fun. It's a surprisingly unique game for modern Rovio standards. There are 6 playable birds in the game, those being Red, Chuck, Bomb, Stella, Silver, and Ruby. Each bird has a special ability when you collect chilies through the gameplay. I also really like their models and think they are pleasing to look at and are very expressive. I like how they look back at you when you launch them, it's really charming. However, I don't like that it's random which bird you use, as it doesn't seem like there's a way to choose which character you want. I think that's very dumb personally. It feels like the game is constantly giving you Red, Chuck, Bomb, and Stella, and barely ever Silver or Ruby. It feels like an event whenever you do see them on the slingshot. Terrence also appears, but as a random encounter where your bird flings at him and he'll start knocking down a load of towers, giving you more coins. Speaking of the coin, there is also a mini city building game. You use the coins you unlock to upgrade the buildings. Each time you upgrade one, you get a star, which further progresses you through a pass, unlocking minor gameplay adjustments. Once you get 45 stars, the game's loading screen permanently changes to be a classic theme for some reason, which is kinda neat, but I don't really understand why. I wish you could also toggle it off or on in the settings of the game, because that'd be a nice feature. I probably wouldn't toggle it off anyway, but it'd be nice to have the option to. Speaking of the coin, there is also an energy system, which is just annoying really, because the game is in beta, there's no actual microtransactions, so when you run out of energy, they just give you more. It just seems pointless. But I do hope that they ditch this if the game does get a full launch. It just makes the game much worse. Games that limit and dictate when you can play are just genuinely annoying. One of the main reasons why I don't play modern Rovio games such as Angry Birds 2. There is also a chance that a space power-up was born, where your bird puts on the goggles of Super Red, and they fly through space for a few seconds. I really like the concept of this power-up, it's so cool, and it's a nice reference to Angry Birds Space. However, I hope in the future Chuck, Bob and Stella actually turn into their space designs upon entering the portal, instead of just putting Super Red's goggles. And it'd be cool to see Silver get a space design too, as she doesn't have an official one yet. I also think the graphics look very good for a beta, but if the game doesn't get cancelled and actually continues in development, I would definitely hope to see some improvements in this area. I don't like how dark the game's lighting looks in some areas. I think it could look brighter. Even in some of the daytime sections, such as this grassy area, I think it would look better if it was just slightly brighter, because right now it does look just kind of dull. I also don't like the themes. The first one's fine, it's just a generic grass area with piggy houses, it does the job. But then there's also these city areas which don't really resemble anything in the Angry Birds franchise. I would like to see more Angry Birds related areas, maybe like a Ham High one, a Mine and Dine one, And like even some season stuff like Trick or Treat would be cool. Really anything that references like the actual Angry Birds game instead of just generic city, generic beach, something like that. That would just be annoying to see. Kruma also said they are thinking about adding more new areas to the game, which is great. But he said some of them will potentially be collabs, which is not really making me excited. By this they probably mean Sonic, and yeah, I do like Sonic a lot more than Angry Birds. But at least for the first year or two of the game being fully released, I hope they try to expand it with original Angry Birds stuff only. And if they did collab with Sonic, the only area would probably just be Green Hill anyway, if both Modern Sonic and the Angry Birds Sonic Club are anything to go by, so it would be a waste of time playing anyway. There are two things about the game I would like to see changed. The first is random woman's voice that I think is meant to be Stella. She basically starts talking at random points during gameplay, and it's very annoying. I thought it would go away after the short, but it doesn't. It's quite distracting, it just doesn't really fit an Angry Birds game at all. So I'd like to see it either removed, or if they don't want to remove it for whatever reason, an option to turn it off in the settings, as the settings does have an option to turn off music and sound effects. And when you do turn sound effects off, her voice does go, but I would like to see them separated, as I like the sound effects, but I don't really want to hear her talk every couple of seconds during gameplay. I would also like to see an option for tilt controls in the game settings, so you move your phone in whatever direction you want the bird to go in, instead of just having the option to use the sliding. I think the game would benefit this control style, and I think it'd be interesting for them to try it out. Now, the actual game itself is fine, and I do definitely hope it doesn't get cancelled, or get the Bad Piggies 2 treatment of. We're going back to the drawing board, only to never hear from it again. However, I do have a small problem with the marketing of this game. Now, it's not a massive issue because obviously the game's only in beta, but to me, it feels like Rovio are just using their fans as free promotion. Now, I don't have any concrete evidence of this and don't know how the talk between the said fans and Rovio employees went down, so I could be reading too much into this, so take everything I say with a grain of salt and everything I say is alleged and, all that stuff. But to me, it makes it feel like Rovio has got them to do for promotion for them. That fan account I talked about earlier is doing all the promotion, while every single Rovio account on every social media has stayed silent about the game, not even retweeting the stuff from the fan account. I think that's quite suspicious of them, and it doesn't really make any sense. Why wouldn't they make tweets about it? And you might be like, oh, maybe they don't want to promote it because it's not out in all countries. And yeah, that's a good theory at first, but they've promoted lots of games on their social media accounts while they were in soft launch, such as Journey and Bad Piggies 2. And the point of this is for it to be a playtest, and surely wouldn't they want as much people as possible to play so they can get as much feedback as possible to change the game and make it better? Now, I know some other games that were marketed as playtests, such as Racing a Kingdom, weren't promoted anywhere, but those two didn't have fans who had input on the game's development make posts promoting it. It just seems kind of mean of Rovio. The least they could do is retweet the tweets from the fan account that are already promoting it. It would take them literally a second. Speaking of the promotion, I'm not a huge fan of how they are promoting it anyway. There's nothing wrong with the tweets themselves, they're worded fine and the graphics used for them look really nice. But the images they are using to promote it have strictly just been the classic birds with the classic logo. So before I played, I assumed it was going to be a brand new classic game, but it's obviously not. It's a 3D game with toon designs, which is fine, I love the toon designs, but it just makes it feel like false advertising to me personally. In all their tweets about the game, they haven't once used toon designs or the game's actual logo, and only a single tweet has shown gameplay, but there's images of Classic Red and the classic themed logo anyway. And I know when you get 45 stars, the loading screen obviously changes to be classic with the classic logo, but the actual graphics themselves still remain to be 3D and toons, and it still doesn't make it feel any less like false advertising to me. In fact, it kind of makes the classic designs feel more like a gimmick, like, hey guys, look, you get this image of the classic designs with beating the game, isn't that cool? And less like a respected design for the characters. So all in all, the gameplay is okay. I hope they expand on it, and I hope it doesn't get cancelled. But the marketing is very questionable, with Rovio not even doing the bare minimum of retweeting the tweets promoting it, with the people who are promoting it just using an entirely wrong art style, giving off it a different impression for what the game's actually going to be like. Grab and like the video, goodbye.